Why would a simple yellow cap on a Coke bottle spark a hunt across multiple stores and ignite curiosity in so many people? Is it just a marketing gimmick, or does it hold a deeper meaning connected to centuries-old traditions? Watch till the end. You won't believe what it symbolizes.
Oh, yes!
When this individual is requested to locate a Coke with a yellow cap, he is completely unaware of its significance. What he uncovers is truly remarkable. John drove into the supermarket parking lot, his friend Mark's voice still echoing in his ears. Remember, I truly require that Coke that has the yellow cap. It's essential, John recalled. Initially, John believed it was merely one of Mark's peculiar likes. Mark was always particular about certain matters. He frequently joked that he had a talent for noticing details that many overlooked. But this time, there was something different in his tone. Urgent, indeed. John couldn't get rid of it. He took a cart and went inside, maneuvering through the aisles until he arrived at the soda section. Just take hold of the yellow cap, he told himself. How difficult could that be? However, the shelves were filled with endless rows of red-capped Coke bottles that appeared to go on forever. John looked around, yet there was no yellow visible. His forehead creased as he advanced, moving bottles out of the way and gazing further. Mark didn't clarify why he required it, but John surmised it couldn't be just any Coke. It had to be that specific one. Right when he was ready to surrender, something attracted his attention. At the far end of the shelf, there sat a solitary yellow-capped bottle. A sense of relief flooded through him as he extended his hand toward it. However, just as his fingers wrapped around the bottle, another hand snatched it from the opposite side. John halted for an instant, then looked to find a woman next to him, her hold firm on the identical bottle. She looked at him, her face calm yet steadfast. "Apologies," she stated, her tone steady. "I've been seeking this." John hesitated. This caught him off guard. "Yeah, I feel the same," he said, continuing to grip the bottle. "It's intended for my friend Mark. He, definitely desires this particular one." The woman looked at him, her eyes slightly narrowing. "It's the sole one remaining. I've visited 3 stores so far," she remarked, her voice quiet yet strained. "I assure you, another person as well." John maintained his position, hesitant about his next move. Mark had been very particular about this bottle, and he didn't want to disappoint him. However, it was evident that the woman had her justifications as well. The atmosphere around them grew tense as neither released their grip. "You know what?" John finally said, easing his hold. "You accept it. Could you at least explain to me why this one is so crucial?" The woman blinked, taken aback by his inquiry. "It's the yellow hat," she stated deliberately, as though it were clear. "It's not the same." She paused briefly, then suggested, "Perhaps you should inquire with your friend about it." Without saying anything more, she added the bottle to her cart and left, leaving John behind, curiosity eating away at him. He took out his phone and rapidly sent a message to Mark. "What makes this yellow cap so significant?" John gazed at his phone, anticipating Mark's response. Moments passed, yet nothing arrived. His curiosity and frustration surged within him.
Hi there. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to our channel. It's completely free and takes just a second, but it means the world to us. Your support is the reason we can keep bringing you incredible stories every day.
What's so special about this yellow cap? He was ready to put his phone away when it vibrated. Mark's text appeared. Any success? John swiftly responded, "No. Someone got there before me." "What is happening with these bottles that have yellow caps?" A minute went by, then another, before Mark eventually answered. "It's quite a tale. Simply attempt to locate one, all right? I'll be in your debt." John wasn't one to turn his back on a mystery. He had always been curious, whether it involved taking apart mechanical watches or exploring in-depth historical documentaries. Thus, Mark's enigmatic responses, along with the unusual conduct that the woman displayed, certainly piqued his curiosity. "Okay," John whispered quietly to himself, steering his cart toward the customer service counter. He went up to the clerk. "Hey, do you have any more of those Cokes that have yellow caps? I require one, and the shelf is bare." The clerk, a young man with weary eyes, cast him a confused glance. "Caps in yellow? We don't receive many of those. I really have no idea why they use yellow caps. I am a newcomer in this place. I just observed that they move fast. I believe we have finished. Inspect the following shop." Just as he was ready to depart, he looked over the parking lot and noticed something that caused him to stop. It was the lady from the shop, putting her own groceries into the trunk of her vehicle. She gently set the Coke bottle with the yellow cap on the seat next to her, treating it like it was valuable. John hesitated for a moment. Should he go up to her? Perhaps request additional details? However, before he could decide, she entered her car and drove away, leaving John with additional questions rather than solutions. He remained in his car for a brief moment, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. "This is becoming absurd," he mused, yet he couldn't resist his curiosity. The yellow cap was obviously significant to numerous individuals, and now John had to find out why. He took out his phone and accessed the map, looking for another grocery store in the vicinity. "Just one more stop," he concluded. "I'll discover what this is concerning." The second grocery store was just a brief drive away. John hurried through the aisles, his gaze sweeping over each shelf as he made his way to the soda section. Yet another ocean of red caps, but once more, no yellow. A sense of dread filled his stomach, yet he was determined to persist. He searched further into the rows, moving aside bottle after bottle, irritation rising. Finally, he saw it, one yellow cap nearly concealed behind the rest. Without thinking twice, John seized the bottle, grasping it tightly in his hands. To his astonishment, there was no eye-catching declaration on the container, only the recognizable Coca-Cola emblem. Still confused, he opted to consult the store manager. Approaching the counter, he inquired, "Hey, what's up with the yellow Coke cap?" The manager smiled with understanding, his look nearly entertained by the inquiry. "Ah, that's meant for Passover," he remarked, folding his arms. "These yellow-capped bottles are unique. They are kosher, and they are produced differently during this season." John blinked while continuing to hold the bottle in his hand. "Passover?" he inquired, uncertain about its connection to Coca-Cola. "In another way? How's that?" he inquired, his interest aroused. The manager clarified. During Passover, practicing Jewish individuals refrain from consuming items containing chametz, which encompasses leavened grains and any substance that can rise, such as flour or corn. For Coca-Cola, this involves replacing the high fructose corn syrup found in regular Coke with cane sugar, rendering it kosher for Passover. The yellow cap indicates to people that it stands out. If you see a Coke with a yellow cap, this is its significance. John acknowledged, and the elements began to align in his thoughts. He was unaware of any of this. However, as the manager's remarks resonated, he started to grasp why Mark could have been so concerned. He reminisced about a discussion they had some time ago while they were having lunch. Mark had casually noted that he was raised in a home where certain traditions were strongly upheld. John didn't push for specifics, but he remembered Mark becoming silent when he mentioned his grandmother. Each year, she would organize a large Seder, demanding that all items be kosher for Passover. As a child, Mark's responsibility was to ensure the family had enough kosher products, particularly Coca-Cola with the yellow cap. "It's not an authentic Seder without it," she would say to him, chuckling as she gave him the shopping list. John grinned at the recollection. This was likely the reason Mark was so determined. When John eventually passed Mark the Coke with the yellow cap, he anticipated a brief thanks. However, what he received was something beyond that. Mark gazed at the bottle he held for a lengthy moment before glancing up at John. "You cannot imagine how much this means to me," he said softly. John lifted an eyebrow. "It's merely Coca-Cola, isn't it?" "No," Mark replied, his tone quieter and more contemplative. "It's not only Coke. My grandma used to possess this item. She would always ensure we had something unique, something exclusively for the family. Each year would vary. One year, it was these unique chocolates from a nearby store. The following year, it was a specific type of tea. However, for some unknown reason, this Coke with the yellow cap remained." John lifted an eyebrow, paying attention. "I suppose it's due to its lack of flair," Mark went on. "It was merely straightforward, yet it belonged to us, you see. Whenever I look at this bottle, it reminds me of those peaceful times, gathered at the table, chatting and laughing. It's odd how a tiny object can carry such a wealth of memories." Mark gazed at John, his eyes gentle with reminiscence. "It may seem foolish, but whenever I witness this, it brings back that feeling of being home." John experienced a surge of comprehension envelop him. This wasn't just about Coke. It was about family, remembrance, and respecting those who preceded us. However, John sensed that there was additional information behind the narrative. As he departed from Mark, who continually expressed gratitude for the Coke, he chose to investigate further what made this Coke so unique. Returning home, John took a seat at his desk, his curiosity completely sparked. He powered on his laptop, entered Coca-Cola Passover yellow cap in the search field, and pressed enter. An overwhelming surge of articles and discussions emerged, and before long, he discovered he was immersed in a plethora of information. Passover, as he soon discovered, was not just an ordinary holiday. It stood as one of the most important celebrations in Jewish tradition, a period when families united to commemorate the Exodus from Egypt. However, what drew John's interest were the food regulations. He was aware of kosher food in a broad sense, but Passover, it turned out, had stricter regulations than the kosher rules observed throughout the year. Foods containing chametz, which refers to leavened grains that expand while being cooked, were completely prohibited during Passover. This encompassed the majority of breads, cakes, and also specific grains and flours. However, the list continued beyond that. Anything that might be cross-contaminated or handled with chametz was likewise prohibited. And then there were kitniot, a different type of food that numerous Jews steered clear of during Passover. This encompassed beans, rice, and maize. John's eyes grew larger as he continued reading. Maize. That was all. Corn syrup is a key ingredient in standard Coca-Cola. It is the primary sweetener found in most soft drinks, such as Coca-Cola, and that rendered it prohibited during Passover. This is the reason Coca-Cola needed to adjust its formula and produce a unique variant with cane sugar instead. A Coke with a yellow cap indicates it is sweetened with cane sugar rather than corn syrup. The more John read, the more intrigued he became by the carefulness of the process. Coca-Cola needed certification from a rabbi to guarantee that every production step complied with Passover's stringent dietary laws. The Hechsher symbol on the label, a tiny P indicating it is kosher for Passover, was the ultimate seal of approval. However, the narrative didn't end there. John unexpectedly encountered something that amazed him: the flavor. Individuals who purchased the yellow-capped Coca-Cola claimed it had a superior flavor compared to the standard version. This sugar-infused Coke, frequently likened to the Mexican Coke available in glass bottles, was praised as a higher-quality variant of the beverage. Some even hoarded the yellow-cap bottles prior to Passover's conclusion, aware that it would vanish until the following spring. Fascinated by the flavor comparisons, John opted to conduct his own experiment. He filled 2 glasses for himself, one from the yellow-capped bottle and the other from his regular red-capped Coke. After sipping each one, he instantly recognized the distinction. The yellow-capped Coke boasted a fuller, more refined taste, lacking the sugary sweetness found in the corn syrup variety. It felt as if entering a time machine and savoring Coca-Cola from years gone by. However, John wasn't the sole person captivated by this seasonal treat. As he read further, he learned that individuals from various backgrounds pursued the yellow-cap bottles. Some were Jewish, naturally, observing kosher laws for Passover, but others simply cherished the nostalgia of a sugary Coke. The restricted time access enhanced its appeal, leading some fans to stockpile bottles as if they were precious collectibles. A change in the narrative occurred when John discovered that the yellow-cap bottles were more than a peculiar custom. They symbolized a broader concept, a convergence of cultural, religious, and corporate agendas. Coca-Cola, an international brand, succeeded in developing a product that catered to a specific community's desires while also attracting a wider audience. It stood as proof of the brand's flexibility and awareness of its varied clientele. While John perused article after article, he discovered that he was not merely curious, but unexpectedly engaged. He was raised without any significant family traditions. Holidays arrived and departed in his home with little excitement. However, the manner in which individuals discussed Passover, how something as insignificant as a bottle of Coke could integrate into a broader tradition, captivated him. It led him to reflect on the customs he may have overlooked, or the new ones he could still establish. As the weeks passed and John persisted with his research, he found that other brands also modified their products for Passover. Lay's produced unique Passover chips, utilizing palm oil in place of corn oil. Manischewitz, a prominent kosher brand, produced Passover-appropriate varieties of everything from wine to matzo ball mix. Every product went through the identical thorough certification procedure to guarantee it complied with the stringent dietary standards of the holiday. However, what intrigued John even further was how this trend reached well beyond Passover or kosher items. Worldwide, firms were beginning to acknowledge the significance of modifying their offerings to suit the cultural requirements of various communities. In the Middle East, for example, prominent fast food chains have launched halal offerings, guaranteeing their products comply with Islamic dietary regulations. In India, Global brands altered their menus to embrace vegetarianism, making meatless versions of their signature products. John understood that this was not merely about boosting profits. It was about trust, about brands demonstrating that they acknowledged and valued the cultural principles of their clientele. Whether it was Coca-Cola's yellow-lidded bottles for Passover or vegetarian burgers in India, brands discovered that honoring traditions was not merely a marketing tactic. It was a means to foster connections that crossed cultures and ages. It led him to contemplate how business, culture, and tradition had all become interwoven. Large companies, in their own manner, were now contributing to the preservation of traditions, whether they meant to or not. Nevertheless, in spite of all this acquired knowledge, one thing was evident. Curiosity had sparked a passion in John that caught him by surprise. The question continued to bother John regarding the Coke bottle. Why was there a yellow cap? Coca-Cola might have selected any hue to represent the Passover edition. Why the color yellow? He contacted a spokesperson from Coca-Cola for information. Following several emails exchanged, the response arrived. The yellow cap was selected due to its contrast with our classic red branding. We aim to ensure it was instantly identifiable for our clients who celebrate Passover. John considered the answer satisfying, yet it was not as surprising as he had anticipated. Nevertheless, he valued its straightforwardness. At times, it was about simplifying things for individuals, particularly regarding something as significant as celebrating a holiday like Passover. With the arrival of Passover season, John observed that the yellow-capped bottles were selling out faster than ever. He laughed, recalling his first bewilderment regarding the cap. While waiting in line to buy a few bottles for himself, he heard another customer inquire to the cashier, "What's up with the yellow Coke cap?" The cashier grinned and answered, "That's Passover-approved Coke. It contains genuine sugar." The customer appeared fascinated, similar to how John had been weeks prior. Upon exiting the store, John found it impossible not to smile. He had solved the mystery, and now another would embark on their own quest for understanding. Ultimately, the yellow cap was not merely a marketing strategy. It symbolized a distinctive mixture of tradition, culture, and contemporary commerce. Coca-Cola successfully recognized an age-old celebration while targeting a contemporary audience, and the yellow-capped Coke emerged as a representation of how even basic items, such as a soda bottle, could hold significant value. Would you have figured out the meaning of the yellow cap on a Coke bottle? Have you tasted this unique variety of Coca-Cola? Please inform us in the comments section.